All right, welcome back. This is our third layer now. We've got the corners once again in the middle. Square is much smaller than it was before. And we're ready to move on to the next step. So we're actually going to flip the piece. And we are going to pretty much do the exact same thing, another blend space type fold. However, we're going to do it on the back, bringing the corners to the middle. And being careful to pinch the middle on the back of our side, on what was the front and now is the back, so that those little tabs don't come open while we're doing it. So that can be a little annoying while you're trying to get a straight fold. Once again, turn, fold all four corners. So my dad told me a joke the other day. Oh, I'm not going to repeat it. I just sometimes have to vent some unfortunate experiences I've had. There we go. That actually looks all right. As you can see, my piece is not necessarily the most neat and tidy. However, it should still work and fold pretty fairly well. So now that you've done that, what we're going to do, this is actually going to be a little bit of a difficult fold. So I'm going to hold the paper up front, and we're going to go to the back. What was once the front and is now our back side. We're going to take the corner. I'm going to kind of peel it up a bit. Once we start to do that, you can see the corner is starting to move up. What we can do, because it's so brittle here, is just kind of press and smash that corner, fold it, crush the edge, just kind of make that paper a little softer there, not as firm a corner. Be careful not to tear as much as possible. However, this is actually to help prevent a tear during the fold. You can also put your finger in the inside and push while you're crunching it with your thumb. It just kind of softens that edge and makes it a little more malleable for when we're pulling this petal from the back. I like to put my thumb right here in that petal, in that curved part that we just created by smashing that edge, and push forward as I'm pulling with my thumb. So you're gonna just kind of do that. So that's actually known as an inside reverse fold. We pull the paper up and around and basically turn it inside out with the fold. It's one of those more complicated folds, but it is also a more common one. We're going to actually do this for all four of the top layered petals, all four corners. When you spend a lot of time around paper, learn how to fold some really amazing things. A little advice though, your boss or supervisor might not be so impressed by your expense report grain. So keep in mind that there's a right place, a right time, and the wrong legal document for every art piece. All right. There we go. Now that we've got that first layer done, we're going to do the same on the back. So in between the two petals we folded up, you'll find the next layer is kind of peeping out. You're going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to be a little different just because you don't have that little inner part as much as the first layer, but you should still be able to press on the edge and pull up. And you can still put your thumb on the inside to help shape it. You're going to do that with all four. When you're done, you should have something somewhat similar to this. Now, one thing that makes these lotuses fun and unique is you can shape them different ways. Once you get to this petal part, you can pinch the tip of the petal and even squash it down to create this sort of cupped shape. You can really flare it out with your finger or thumb to make them more bulbous. You could even press on the tip with your thumb on the inside to round the bottom, but curl the top to create this sort of rose petal flaring out. And you don't necessarily even have to do this with all the petals or all the layers. I sometimes find that doing the top layer one way and then doing another layer a different style can really help separate the different layers and make them a little unique. In this case, I'm actually going to do the flared petals for the inner layers. And then I think to create a little bit of contrast and emphasize that, I'm going to take the outer layer. I'm going to pinch them along that fold line. If you actually look at the petals, you'll see there's like a little section down the middle of each where the folds layer up. If you just pinch along there and create these nice little petals. They look like they're still kind of forming, or even the outer layers that are starting to lose their shape and fall off like a flower naturally would as the blossom wilts. Now that you got the first two layers done, we can just pull out that final layer on the bottom. That is if you're doing 3. If you're doing 2, you can just move on to the next section of our video, but it shouldn't take too long. Now these are going to be a little more brittle. They're not really going to fold out very much. So what I do is I just crease hard at the furthest extent that they can fold up. And they sort of create these little leaf petals. These are like the very bottom layered petals of a rose or other flower, in our case a lotus, where they're not really very visible from the top. They're not as shapely, but they're just kind of there to emphasize. One beautiful thing about the lotuses, these are actually often referred to as the floating lotus design in origami, because if you were to place them in water until the point that they would saturate and start to sink, they have this nice flat surface that will actually allow them to float on for a little while. You could also do is get some waterproof paper or wax paper if you have any extra wax paper in your kitchen, or you could even rub some wax, melt it, spray it with a waterproof varnish, and then essentially have a nice permanent floating lotus. As long as the water doesn't get in to the top part of the lotus, or you treat the paper on both sides before you do it, or if you have a spray both sides, it will keep its shape and float indefinitely, just because it won't be able to seep in, and because of how light it is and how very flat and broad the bottom is, it displaces that water. And even in a shallow bowl, it's a nice little decoration. You can create a little accent piece. Put a shallow bowl or dish out on a coffee table and have a few colored floating lotuses just inside. So that's actually our tutorial on the floating lotus or lotus blossom origami. I do have one more that I want to go over. I did show you earlier some origami cranes, some frogs, and then I made a few lily pads just by folding paper until it got to the right shape. Just kind of improvising it earlier with the sticky notes. I will not necessarily be going over those in this video. However, I did show you these little pinwheels. And so as one last little origami piece, I would like to show you how to make a shuriken and then end with it becoming a pinwheel.